Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football, the only NFL show that gives you everything you need to know about the National Football League in just 30 minutes a day. I am your host, Brian McFadden from Legit Football. We have a special guest joining us for the Game Pick Show this week, Jaxon Curtis, who is an NIL and NFL marketing agent for VMG Sports. Jaxon, really excited to have you on the show. How you doing, man?
No, yeah, thanks so much for the invitation. It's great to be here and excited to look at this next week here.
Officially our first NFL marketing agent to be on the show, so love to get your angle and kind of your perspective when it comes into game picks. I prepped you a little bit before we got started. We're going to be going over all the Sunday action against the spread, picking our winners, giving our reasons why. Are you ready to get this party started?
Yeah, let's get it rolling.
Awesome. Anthony, our Wayner, our producer behind the scenes, before we start the timer, for those of you who are watching on Tanner's site, we're still going to give Tanner's picks. For those of you watching on the Pro Football Demon YouTube, as always, we're going to give Rich's picks as well. It's a lot of picks to put on the ticker at the bottom, so what I'm going to do instead is I've got the notes in front of me. I'm going to try to remember to give each of their picks so you guys can kind of follow whichever one of us you tend to follow. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Anthony, get that timer ready because 30 minutes of football with Legit Football starts now. So we always like to kick off the episode on Friday with just at least briefly talking about the Thursday night game. This was one of my higher confidence picks, 11 out of 15. This was very much a reflection for me personally, Jaxon, of how bad Tampa Bay has looked. I've said multiple times I think they're broken. We had news today that the divorce is officially being filed between Tom and Giselle. The offense showed a little bit of spark at first, but at the end of the day, Baltimore just was too much, and this Bucs offense's team is now 3-5. Any thoughts from last night's game?
Yeah, no, I'm a big Tom Brady fan. It's really tough to see him, kind of go downhill, so to speak, this year. The Ravens are just a lot more consistent. When it comes down to it, Tampa Bay, their receiving core, I mean, Tom Brady has thrown it right into these receivers' hands, drop passes, maybe some bad routes, but at the end of the day, I kind of figured Baltimore would take the win, but I did see a little more spark, maybe a little more zing to the ball, especially on the Tampa Bay side. But yeah, Baltimore just kind of took over.
I haven't really seen a physical decline from Brady. There's more just like there's an out of syncness to how this offense is operating. Like you said, missed routes, miscommunications. He's upset with his offensive line. There were some missed throws from Brady's last night. It wasn't like but it wasn't an arm strength issue. It was more just like maybe he expected the receiver to be here. Whatever it is, it's not looking good. The good news is that division might possibly be the worst in NFL. So still only one game out. Fun fact, by the way, as we review this game a little bit later, whoever wins between Atlanta and Carolina, the Falcons and the Panthers, are in sole possession of first place in the NFC South. Crazy fact. All right, let's get into the Sunday games. Before we do, quick look at our records from last week. Good week for me and Tanner. I went 9-5 against the spread. Tanner 9-4. Reminder that Tanner doesn't pick the Thursday night games with us. And Pro Football Demon, fresh off his first winning week 2 weeks ago, fell right back down to the bottom. I'm sorry, Rich. 5-9. Like I said, every week at least your Jets are playing well. And a scorecard, since we started, we reset the standings last week. I am at 24-20. Tanner at 20-21. Pro Football Demon at 18-26. So let's go ahead and jump into the first game in London. We got another London game this week. So 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 a.m. Pacific. The Jacksonville Jaguars have kind of always been like the London home team. I don't know if that gives them an advantage here. They're listed as the home team. That doesn't necessarily matter. Denver Broncos sitting at 2-5. Russell Wilson is starting. Nathaniel Hackett said that today. Jacksonville favored by 3.5. Jackson, what do you see in this game?
I mean, you look at, Jacksonville's 3-2 in London. I mean, the only game that Denver's played in London, they've lost. I don't know. I see Jacksonville taking this game. Trevor Lawrence has improved. I mean, compared to last year, he's doing a lot better, obviously, with the new coaching staff. More weapons. I mean, they did lose their running back, who's on my fantasy team. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to take this and cover the spread. I know Russell Wilson is now playing, but I just have not seen a lot of great plays. I mean, he lost in his homecoming back to Seattle, which I thought they'd win that. I mean, I think Jacksonville's going to take this and cover.
Real quick mention, there's a number of people in the stream asking for Tanner. Tanner will be on all the future Friday episodes. He wanted to at least get this episode out to his YouTube channel as well, so you guys can see his picks. So I will be sharing Tanner Kern's picks. Tanner, you got a lot of fans in the crowd, so just wanted to at least acknowledge you guys. Yeah, this game was not easy to pick. I had a confidence of 6. It was one of my least confident games. Denver has burned me multiple times. I have said repeatedly how unconfident I am in the Denver offense, but there's just something about the way Jacksonville has been playing that I think lends itself to Denver. I think this will be a low-scoring game. I don't believe in either offense at this point. But the bigger thing for me personally, Jackson, is Jacksonville's defense, which started off gangbusters, right? They shut out the Colts. They held the Chargers to 10 points and a drubbing absolutely in week 3, and they have looked really susceptible. They haven't been able to stop the run in particular, so I can see Denver really committing to the ground game. I also don't like the point spread. You know, I think even if Jacksonville does win this game, I still think it'll be within a field goal. So I am picking the Broncos to cover against the Jags. Like I said, my confidence level is 6. Don't love that. Pro Football Demon is picking the Jags to win and cover. So he'll think not only the Jaguars will win, but they'll win by 4 or more. And Tanner Kern is picking the Broncos with me to cover that 3.5 points. All right, let's go to the United States games. Minnesota Vikings hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Minnesota coming off a bye. Arizona off of their best victory of the season against New Orleans on Thursday night last week. Minnesota is 3.5-point favorites at home. How do you like this game?
Yeah, no, you're right. They're coming off a bye week. Kirk Cousins is fairly dependable. I mean, I have him on my fantasy team, but just in general, like, he's pretty dependable. The Vikings have shown well. I mean, they did beat the Packers this year. But the Packers aren't that great. So this one was a little close for me. I kind of went back and forth. I mean, I look at Minnesota. I mean, they're 10-0 in their last home games against Arizona. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me because, I mean, Kyler Murray he came back and beat Las Vegas a few weeks ago. I see Minnesota taking this game. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be by a field goal. I don't think it's going to be by much more than that. I still think it's going to be a super close game. This is one of those where I just kind of went back and forth, but Minnesota has proved very well this season. I mean, everyone wants to say they haven't played a lot of great teams, but they're still a solid team when it comes to, playing at home as well.
Yeah, this is – I've had the last 2 weeks I've started having upsets of the week. I'm correctly picked the last 2, so I got a streak going. I picked the Falcons to beat the 49ers 2 weeks ago, and I picked the Seahawks to pick the Chargers last week. This is my upset of the week for a few reasons. Arizona's a different offense when they have DeAndre Hopkins back. We saw that last week. I don't think that's due to any special play calling. I just think that I'm not high on Kingsbury as a play caller, but Kyler, just when you can rely on the talent of DeAndre Hopkins and you can pepper him with 15 targets a game, you're going to have a more successful offense. But the Cardinals' defense has played better, and Minnesota at 5-1, hey, we had them at number 4 in our power rankings. I don't think they're a number 4 type of team. So I think they come back down a little. At the very least, I agree with you, Jackson, that I think if Vikings do win, it's going to be by a field goal or less, which means Arizona is going to cover that at 3.5. But I'm also picking the Cardinals to win on the road. For whatever reason, Arizona this season and the past couple seasons plays better on the road than they do at home. Right. So this is confidence level of 7. Not slamming a lot of money down on this, but I do like Arizona to cover and win this game. For those of you who are looking for Tanner Kern's picks, he is with me. He is picking Arizona at plus 3.5. And the Pro Football Demon looks like he is picking... by the way, Rich, if you're watching, stop putting these out of order. So I have to go down here. Tanner made it nice and neat for me. I can go right down the list. Let's see. We're looking for the Vikings to win and cover. We know that Pro Football Demon is high on Minnesota. Picked them to win the division before the season started. Let's go to my Miami Dolphins taking on the Detroit Lions at Ford Field in Detroit. Miami favored by 3.5 on the road. Detroit came off their bye. Their defense actually looked better against Dallas last week, but their offense for 2 games in a row now has been non-existent. They are on track to get both DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown back this week. Dolphins beat the Steelers in Tua's return, but only scored 16 points. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Lions, they really struggle against AFC opponents. I mean, they haven't won a game in the last 9 games they've played. They've had 8 losses and a tie against AFC opponents. I mean, they're not a super consistent team. Jared Goff, he's prone to throw a lot of picks, 1 or 2 at least in a game. I see the Dolphins jumping out to an early lead, and then like maybe Detroit finds their way back into the game, but I still think Dolphins prevail and get the W here.
Yeah, I think we're aligned here. It's not a homerism. I think that this matchup bodes really well for the Mike McDaniel Tua offense that has been one of the better offenses this year. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both on track for over 1,500 yards receiving, and that offense just functions so much better with Tua behind the helm than it did with Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson. I actually think this is going to be one of the more high-scoring games this week. Miami's defense is underwhelmed at times, and we've seen what the Lions' offense can do when they're rolling. So I think there's going to be points scored, but I do think the Dolphins at the end of the day will win by 4 or more. Tanner is aligned with me. Once again, I see more people in the chat. Tanner, you got a lot of fans on there. Tanner Kern is also picking Miami to cover the 3.5. Pro Football Demon, he's all about Detroit. Detroit's been burning him all year. He is picking the Lions to win and cover this game. There's a reason, Rich, why you continue to have losing weeks. You're riding with your teams. Anthony Wayner, our producer, who is a Lions fan, really excited that Rich is picking them. But the rest of us on the Miami side. Chicago Bears, fresh off their best game of the year, absolutely trouncing Bill Belichick on Monday Night Football. I didn't see that coming. I don't know anybody that saw that coming, especially to that degree. They now get to travel to the Dallas Cowboys. In Dallas, 9.5 points. Cowboys favored by home. What do you think?
Yeah, no, you brought up a good point. The Bears played really good against the Patriots. I did not expect that. I thought the Patriots were going to come out and actually end up getting the win. But, I mean, Dak Prescott is now in his second game back. Bears are looking a lot better. Justin Fields looked a lot more confident. I don't know how it's all going to go down, but the Cowboys have a great defense. I mean, that's one thing. They've really prepared well. I don't think Justin Fields is going to have as much room to run around as he did against New England. So I'm going with the Cowboys. I don't see the Bears winning this. I just think with Dallas' defense, it's really going to limit the Bears, especially on the run game with Justin Fields and the running back. So I say Dallas is going to win this.
What do you feel about 9.5 points, though? That's really my thinking here. Can the Cowboys, who, yes, have an amazing defense, maybe one of the best in the NFL, offense has been lackluster, even with Dak back last week against a Lions defense that has been one of the worst, hasn't really been able to put up points. With what we saw with Chicago last week, do we think that the Cowboys can beat the Bears by 10 or more?
I don't think they're going to beat by 10 or more. I don't think they're going to cover. I think it's going to be still a fairly close game. Like, Chicago's coming off a great momentum win, great win. So I don't think they're going to win by 10 or more. I think it's going to be probably a touchdown.
I'm of the same mind. I do have the Cowboys winning this game. I think as nice as a story it is with how good Chicago looked last week, they just traded Robert Quinn, so now their best defensive player, short of maybe Roquan Smith, is gone. Exactly. He's gone to Philadelphia. So I think the Cowboys will win this game. I don't necessarily trust the Cowboys to win by 10 or more, especially because if we get the Chicago offense we got last week, even if they're slowed down more by Dallas, I still think they can be a little frisky. They can move the ball on the ground, which is where Dallas is more susceptible on the defense. So I am picking Chicago to cover the 9.5. Both Tanner and Pro Football Demon are picking all Cowboys. Cowboys to win, Cowboys to cover 10 points or more. By the way, those of you who are watching from Tanner's channel, Tanner also gave me his player prop of the week. So you stay tuned to the end of the episode. You will get Tanner's number 1 player prop of the week. We'll make sure to throw that in there. All right, let's go. We got about just under 3 minutes until halftime. Las Vegas getting 1.5 as favorites on the road against the New Orleans Saints. By the way, for those that are just listening on the podcast, my confidence level is only 5 for Chicago to cover that, because I could absolutely see the Cowboys winning that game by like 14 to 17 points. But I'm still picking Chicago to cover. Vegas favored by 1.5 on the road. Jackson, how do you like this one?
Well, I mean, if they can use Josh Jacobs like they have been recently, I definitely think the Raiders are going to take this. It pains me to say that, though, sometimes. I mean, I have friends that are big Raiders fans. They jump up to leads, and then the fourth quarter comes around, and then it's just turnover city. I think Raiders win this. I think they cover the spread here. the Saints offense has just had its struggles. I mean, I know Taysom Hill had a big game this year, but I do not see them being super consistent in the pass game. And it's just going to be really hard to beat the Raiders with Devontae Adams. And and the Raiders just have, I think, too many threats for the Saints to take this one. So I think Raiders are going to win and cover.
We are fully aligned across the board. Everybody, Pro Football Demon, Tanner Kern, Jackson, myself, picking the Raiders to win and cover this game. This is my second most confident pick of the week at 14. This Vegas offense, like you said, they have so many weapons, and we expected them to be a great offense even before we thought have seen what Josh Jacobs could do. He's
right.
the engine that makes that offense run. Devontae Adams, Saints, it's already looking like they will be without Marshawn Lattimore again on the defensive side. Their number one defensive back, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, both also aiming to miss again. We're getting the Andy Dalton show again, as opposed to Jameis Winston, which, yes, he might be a little more careful with the ball, but he doesn't have the high upside that Winston has. So all signs point to Vegas winning this game. I like the 1.5 points. To me, that's a really, really nice. I would have put the spread higher than that, so this is a slam dunk pick for me. Let's get one more in before halftime. We talked earlier, this is the battle for first place in the NFC South. Who would have thought that before the season started? Atlanta Falcons favored by 4.5 at home against the Carolina Panthers, Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be tough. I mean, Carolina's had its struggles this year. We all know that. I mean, the Panthers did stun the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers have been on the downhill. I don't see the Panthers stunning the Falcons. I'm actually going to go with the Falcons on this one. They've both had their fair amount of injuries, but the Falcons have like a top 5 rush defense. Like I see, Atlanta coming in, winning this. I still think it's going to be a close game, but I do think they're going to cover the spread.
Yeah, there was no chime for halftime, Anthony. Waiting for the chime. But yeah, quickly on this game before we go to halftime. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that last week's game for the Panthers was more of a reflection of the Bucs than it was for Carolina. It's a nice story. Steve Wilkes gets his first win as interim head coach. Christian McCaffrey gets traded, and then Dante Foreman gets 100 yards. Chuba Hubbard scores a touchdown. Hubbard has been ruled out for this week. I like Atlanta. I've been high on Atlanta all year, at least higher than consensus. I thought that they can get to first place in the division is exciting. I am picking the Falcons there. Tanner agrees with me. For you Tanner Kern fans out there, but the Pro Football Demon is going with the Panthers. He just likes to spice things up. He gives those hot takes. That's why I like it. I want to quickly mention, Jackson, before I want to hear about a little bit more about what you do. Chris Albert in the chat, are these picks made using cold hard football facts? Tanner Kern, who works for Cold Hard Football Facts, he uses those stats to make his picks. I, as an NFL analyst who watches every single game, really just using kind of my eye test. I'm a big fan of Football Outsiders DVOA and individual players using PFF grading. But so some of the picks, Tanner's picks, are made using CHFF. Chris, thanks for watching and thanks for the question. Jackson, as we mentioned, you're the first marketing agent we've had. I know that we're connected on LinkedIn. You were really more in the NIL realm. Now you're getting in the NFL as well. I think you recently switched to VMG. Tell us a little bit about your path and what you're doing these days.
Yeah, no, I was at Encore Sports, which was like an NIL only marketing agency. Now I'm with VMG, so I still focus primarily on NIL, but now kind of dabble more with NFL players. I mean, pretty much what I do is I help a lot of these players build their brand, get more brand deals. At the end of the day, the NFL kind of means not for long. Like, you don't know how long your career is going to be. So I have a pretty important role. I love it. It's great to help these players off the field. Now social media is such a big part of building your brand. So it's a lot of talking with brands and integrating social media into their marketing strategy so they can make money. So it's a great opportunity. I have a lot of fun. And yeah, it makes watching these NFL games even more personal, and big NFL fan. So it's been really fun to work in this space that I've always kind of grown up watching.
I think you can relate it a little bit. The benefit for those fantasy football players out there that maybe don't get into the NIL, if you're scouting college players to prepare for your fantasy team in the NFL, Jackson is doing that on the marketing side and preparing them for the business side of it that they're going to get to, that they get the NFL. They didn't used to have that opportunity. College players, they just, they would kind of learn here and there, but they wouldn't actually be able to put it into practice because the NCAA didn't allow it. Now they are able to capitalize on their name, image, likeness, get deals, get used to viewing themselves as a brand. I think that gives them a head start. So I love it. I love that this is a paramount role for the future of these people. As you mentioned, a lot of these players, I think the average is 2 to 3 years, right? It's like 2.3 or something is the average veteran. We think of these Tom Brady's playing for 20 years. That is far and away the exception. Most of these players, they may never get a shot at a starting job, or they may have a very limited amount of time to really capitalize and make as much money as they can. So the fact that they can now do that and take some of the money that these colleges were making already, that these giant universities were making, and get it to the players who are actually bringing in the eyeballs. I love it. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. Are you ready now for the second half to keep these game picks going?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Great. So I'm going to bring the picks back up. Anthony, if you can go ahead and take down the halftime ticker at the bottom. We left off with Atlanta, Carolina, so let's go to the New England Patriots AFC East matchup against the New York Jets. Jets 5-2, Patriots 3-4. New England Patriots, the only team with a losing record right now in the AFC East. Off that, as we mentioned earlier, completely unexpected, just drubbing by the Chicago Bears on Monday night. The Jets, what a great story, but they did lose perhaps their two most important offensive players for the season, Breece Hall and Elijah Vera Tucker. They did sign James Robinson. I'm excited to see how that works. What are you looking for in this game?
Yeah, no, this is going to be a tough one. I mean, you brought up a good point. I mean, with Breece Hall being gone, we don't know how much Robinson is going to fit in. I think Robinson was a great pickup by the Jets, and I think it's going to be great for the Jets. Now, I'm a big Patriots fan. I always go for the Patriots, but unfortunately, I cannot go with the Patriots on this one. I just think the Jets are too strong, and it pains me to say that, it really does. But I mean, Jets are coming off 4 games in a row. They have some great offensive weapons. I understand Zach Wilson isn't like super consistent, but the Jets have proved me wrong this year. I did not think they would do as well as they have. I mean, they didn't do very good last year. I know they have some different players, but my biggest thing is without a good starting quarterback on the Patriots, like I do not know how Mac Jones or Zappy is really going to perform. I think it's really difficult for me to pick because typically when the Patriots have beaten the Jets and done really well, they've had, Tom Brady and these guys that have just been consistent. They can beat them on the throw. I don't know. I think the Jets are going to win this, and it pains me to say that. It really does. I do not want to pick the Jets, but I just don't see the Patriots doing very good this year. I think they need just a little more consistency on the offensive side.
I am picking the Patriots, and I'll tell you why. It's more of a reflection of the Patriots defense versus this Jets offense. If Breece Hall was still healthy and starting this game, I would probably be picking the Jets. But if there's one thing first of all, Belichick has a personal vendetta against the Jets. There's a lot of history there. He took the job for like a day and then resigned writing on a napkin or whatever that story is. But even when the Jets have been winning, Zach Wilson is a real liability. Jets fans know that. Pro Football Demon, if you guys are watching on his channel, he knows that. He is not sold on Zach Wilson by any means. And now you take out this weapon who has really been the driver of this offense in Breece Hall. He's a home run threat anytime he touches the ball. I like James Robinson, but he's going to be joining a new team. How much does he get up to speed in time? Michael Carter is a very good, solid running back as well, but he's not the level of talent that Breece Hall is, which means you're going to need to rely on Zach Wilson. You know that Belichick's going to draw some sort of defensive game plan. I think he's going to be extra pissed that he didn't get to pass George Hollis on Monday and just got drubbed by. This is setting up for one of those Belichick games where they just come in and the defense and special teams wins it. I don't think the Patriots will score a lot of points on offense. I agree with you there. Right. Mac Jones is starting, but he started last game, and they took him out after 4 drives, and then they said they were going to put him back in, and they never put him back in. That whole offense is a mess. Right. But I'm going to go with the Patriots to win and cover this game on the road. Tanner Kern is agreeing with me that the Patriots will win and cover. Not surprisingly, Pro Football Demon, our resident Jets fan, is going to pick the Jets to win big. You know what? He keeps picking the Jets, and they keep rewarding him for it, so I can't blame him there. Let's talk about the Battle of Pennsylvania. I don't know if they view it this way or if that's even a thing. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers, 10.5-point underdogs, biggest spread of the week, tied with Green Bay and Buffalo, which is crazy to say, on the road at the still undefeated Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, we all know how good, Hurts has been for the Eagles this year. I mean, the only undefeated team. Well, let's talk about their defense. I mean, Eagles have a solid defense, and that I feel like that's what's really helped them, win some of those games. So for me, the Eagles have won 9 straight over the Steelers. I mean, I don't see I don't see the Steelers winning this game. I think Kenny Pickett has a big upside. I think the Steelers are developing, but I do not feel like they have enough to take down the Eagles.
Yeah, I definitely think Philadelphia will win this game. It's the point spread that I'm going with. My confidence level is 4. By the way, I think I forgot to mention my confidence level for the New England game is 2. So I'm not super. I said all that stuff, but the Jets are they've been a better team, and I could easily see them winning at home. My confidence for this is 4. I am picking the Steelers to cover that. I think they've been much more competitive lately. Ever since they got beat 38-3 by the Bills, they beat the Bucs, which isn't necessarily saying much these days. They were competitive, only lost by 6 to the Dolphins after starting down 13-0. Kenny Pickett is much more exciting than Mitch Trubisky. Right. I like their weapons on offense. I just think they'll keep it close, or at least 10 points. Even if they lose by 10, they're covering this. This is too rich for me on the spread side. Not very confident. Only confident level of 4, but I am picking the Steelers to cover this game. But I'm not picking the Steelers to win. Tanner is aligned with me. He is picking Pittsburgh to cover the 10.5, and Rich, unsurprisingly, picking the Eagles to cover that, win by 11 or more. Let's go to the AFC South. Tennessee, only 1.5-point favorites on the road at Houston. This is my most confident. I'm just going to go ahead and throw out there before we get your picks, Jackson. I'm surprised by how close the spread is. It's probably due to the fact that we don't know for sure if Ryan Tannehill is starting. He is out of his walking boot. He seems to be confident that he'll go. From what I'm hearing, it's looking like he's at least going to get the start. How do you see Titans at Texans?
Yeah, I mean, that could be it. That's probably one of the bigger reasons why the spread is like this. I mean, to me, the Texans are looking like they're going to get the number 1 pick again. I mean, the Texans have really struggled. Titans are, 4 in a row. They're the best in the division. If Derrick Henry goes for 100 yards and they can just have a decent game, I see Titans win. This is an easy pick for me. Spread's covered. I don't see why the Titans would lose this game.
Yeah, same. Tennessee has owned Houston in recent times, and Derrick Henry specifically has owned Houston, and that was when they had a better defense. Houston has one of the worst defenses in the NFL, worst run defense in the NFL right now. We just saw what Josh Jacobs did to him, like 140 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, and now you bring in a team that, whether Tannehill's starting or not, they're feeding Derrick Henry. If you're playing DFS, chalk it up for Derrick Henry getting 100-plus yards and probably a touchdown in this game. 1.5 is way too close. That's why it's my most confident pick. I'm a confidence level of 15 that Tennessee will not only win this game, but they'll win by 2 points or more. We are fully aligned across the board. Tanner and the Pro Football Demon completely agreeing that the Titans will win by 2 points or more. Let's go to 5-2 New York Giants. 6-1 New York Giants. Still can't catch a break. In Vegas, they are once again underdogs to, granted, the 4-3 surprising Seattle Seahawks, who are now in first place by themselves for now in the NFC West. 2.5 points, Seahawks favored at home. What do the Giants have to do to get some respect from people outside of New York, and especially the odds makers in Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, these New York teams are playing good. It's shocking everyone. I mean, look at the Giants. I mean, they got one of the best rushers in the NFL. He's on my fantasy team, been super consistent. I mean, Seattle has the 3rd worst rushing defense. The Giants are going to win this game. I don't think Seattle's going to win this. I still think it'll be close. I don't think it's going to be like a massive blowout. But the Giants are undefeated on the road. They're red hot. I mean, these are the Giants that we're not used to seeing the last few years. I mean, people were talking about how Daniel Jones doesn't even deserve to be a quarterback. And now the Giants have a 6-1 record. Granted, I don't think it's all Daniel Jones. I think a lot of it is other pieces, the new coach, Barkley, and a lot of these other factors. But the Giants are 2nd in rushing yards per game. They're going to just run the ball like crazy against Seattle. I'm picking the Giants. I think they're going to win by a touchdown.
I'm also picking the Giants. This is a fairly confident 9, so over halfway. they just keep finding ways to win. And as you mentioned, they're finding ways to win in a way that really lines up well for how Seattle plays. Bad run defense. Seattle's secondary has actually been pretty good. They've got two out of three of their starting cornerbacks are rookies, in Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant. But they are very susceptible to the run. What do the Giants want to do? They're not fooling anybody. They're not trying to pass. Even Daniel Jones is getting over 100 yards rushing. They want to win on the ground. This sets up that way. And you know what? Because they're underdogs, Brian Daboll has this team believing. I think maybe if the Giants were favored, maybe there's a mental thing you can say, oh, maybe the Seahawks. No, the Giants are 6-1. They have the second best record in the NFL behind only the Eagles, because the Bills have only won 5. They had the bye week, so they're 5-1. Literally the second best record in the NFL, and they're still underdogs against the Seattle Seahawks, a team that has surprised us, sure, but a lot of them had near the bottom of power rankings before the season started. Disrespectful. I'm going to continue to bet on the Giants until they prove otherwise. Definitely going that 2.5 point spread. Also picking them to win. Tanner is aligned with me. He is also going Giants plus 2.5. And let's check on the Pro Football Demon. Once again, Giants to win and cover. So we're all aligned, fully aligned here. Disrespectful. I like what Pete Carroll has done there, but no, Giants to win this game. San Francisco 49ers. I think this, for the future, is really the real matchup for the NFC West, even though both these teams aren't technically in first. Niners have now dropped 2 in a row to the Falcons and then that bad beating to the Chiefs last week. Going against the Los Angeles Rams. Rams coming off a bye. They beat the Panthers before the bye. But prior to that, the Niners played the Rams and decisively beat them. This is in Los Angeles. I don't know if that makes a huge difference. How do you see this game shaking out?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Rams, they're not the same team they were last year. I think the Rams played super well in the playoffs. But looking at this year, I mean, their offense is on paper, it's one of the worst offenses in the league. I know they have Cooper Kupp, but they just haven't performed like everyone kind of thought they'd perform. I mean, as we all know, the 49ers now have a great roster with Christian McCaffrey. They can lean on that when Jimmy doesn't want to throw as much. Cam Akers on the Rams hasn't played as good this year. I think the 49ers will win this. I think the spread will be covered. I don't know how I feel about the Rams this year. They're not the same team. So I just can't go with the Rams. I'm going with the Niners.
Yeah, there's a few things to like better about this matchup for the Rams than there was earlier in the season. Van Jefferson designated to return, hopefully set to make his debut in 2022. They've needed a second weapon outside of Cooper Kupp. Allen Robinson hasn't been what everyone thought he would be. The running back room is at least more situated now that Cam Akers is clear that he's not going to play for this team and they're looking to trade him. It is Darrell Henderson with a little bit of Malcolm Brown matched up. But the one key difference, which is why I'm still picking San Francisco, is the Rams all of a sudden have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, and they just they continue to get worse with injuries after they were one of the better offensive lines last year. And then you have the Niners pass rush. Nick Bosa came back last week, looking like Eric Armstead might be back this week. That's the biggest D. That's the key here, is that the Niners are going to get to the Rams. Stafford has thrown multiple interceptions, has not looked as good as he did last year. You can say it's the elbow thing. I really think it's more due to his pass protection. He's very prone to throw interceptions. A lot of them turn into pick sixes. Even against the Panthers 2 weeks ago before the bye, they were losing that game at first because of a interception return that Stafford threw. So I like the Niners. I don't think it'll be as much of a blowout as it was earlier in the season, but I still think it'll be by more than 1.5 points. Tanner is going with the Rams, so he is on the other side of this. He does think the Rams will win this game at home. Pro Football Demon is aligned with us, picking the 49ers to knock off the Rams for the second time this season. All right, got about 2 minutes left and 3 games to talk about. The Indianapolis Colts at home. Sam Ehlinger, his NFL debut as a starter, taking on the Taylor Heineke-led Washington Commanders. Colts favored by 2.5. This was absolutely the hardest game for me to pick. What are your thoughts on this one?
Extremely difficult pick. I mean, the Colts are starting a brand new QB. I mean, the Commanders to me are a different team with Heineke in. They're not the same with Wentz. I've seen Wentz blow a lot of games under pressure. They have a little bit better of a defense. They're like, I want to say, in the middle of the NFL for defense. I'm actually picking the Commanders to win this by a field goal. It's really tough. I mean, it's a toss-up to me still, but I still have a little more trust in the Commanders just because the Colts have a brand new QB. You don't know how he's going to do.
This was my least confidence pick. I'm going to give my other 2 picks because I want to give why I ended up going with the Colts. It's a fun reason. It's not analytical at all. So we've got Tanner is going with the Commanders. So he is going with you. He's aligning that the Commanders will cover that 2.5 points. And Pro Football Demon aligned with me. Colts win and cover. I could not decide. This is actually probably the toughest I've had deciding on any game in 8 weeks this season. I just went with, what do I want to see? I want to see Sam Ehlinger coming in off the bench in his first NFL start, the first mobile quarterback the Colts have had since Andrew Luck, coming out there and just providing a spark. That's what I want to see. I don't know if I'm going to see it because I don't have enough data on Sam Ehlinger. We haven't seen him. Right. We've seen him in the preseason, and then we saw him in 4 years at Texas. But that's what I want to see. So I am picking the Colts, but don't put money on it based on my word. I'm only have a 1 confidence level. Green Bay Packers, 10.5-point underdogs under Aaron Rodgers on the road at the Buffalo Bills. Let's pick this quickly and then get to Monday night.
Bills are going to win this, no question. They just have too many weapons. Green Bay is in disarray like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's going to be Buffalo all day.
Yeah, I'm 100%. That's the gong to show that the game is over. Anthony, why don't you give us 1 more minute of overtime and we'll finish out these last 2 games. I 100% think the Bills will win. It's so hard for me to pick that the Packers are going to lose by 11. I know a lot of people are thinking that. It's Pro Football Demon. He's going all the way on Buffalo. Tanner is aligned with me. We think that Green Bay will cover that. Once again, even if it's a 10-point, I can see this being like a 27-17 Bills win. That's still a cover for Green Bay. So my picking Green Bay is a confidence level of 3. Guys, I'm not super thrilled about this pick. I can see the Bills winning by 20 points here. But I am going to pick Green Bay to cover, but Bills to win. And finally, Monday night, Cincinnati Bengals, now without Jamar Chase, 3.5-point favorites on the road, AFC North division matchup against the Browns.
Yeah, no, this is tough. I mean, they lost their number 1 receiver. He accounts for a lot of their offense. I mean, looking at some stuff, Cincinnati has lost 12 primetime road games. So I don't think they're going to go in here and play amazing. I'm still picking them to win. This was honestly a little tough for me, but I still think Bengals are going to win off this.
We are fully aligned across the board. Tanner, Pro Football Demon, all picking the Bengals, even without Jamar Chase, because Cleveland their defense has just been so bad. They still have Jacoby Brissett. They're not built to play from behind. I think the Bengals, you still have T. Higgins. You still have Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon in the backfield, Hayden Hurst. You've got so many weapons, even without Jamar Chase. We're all picking Cincinnati. Finally, guys, as promised, if you're following along on Tanner's channel or just want to hear player props in general, Tanner's player prop of the week, Ramondre Stevenson over 62.5. We talked about the Patriots going up against the Jets. Even with Damian Harris back in the lineup last week, Ramondre Stevenson was still clearing away the lead back. I think the Patriots are going to get out to a lead because of the play of their defense and Zach Wilson on the Jets side. So I agree with this. Your player prop of the week from Tanner Kern, Cold Hard Football Facts, Ramondre Stevenson over 62.5. That is it. Jaxon, thank you so much for joining us. Any last words before we sign off heading into NFL Week 8?
No, thanks so much for the opportunity. It should be a great week. I think we're going to see some great games, so I'm excited for Sunday.
This is definitely one that was some of these weeks, I'm just like, that. Yep. This one I had to do a little bit more thought, a little bit more analysis, which means it could be a crazy week. I'm excited. Thank you guys, everybody who's watching on Tanner's channel, everybody who's watching on Pro Football Demon's channel. Tanner will be back with us next Friday. Pro Football Demon is with us every Thursday for a full hour of live viewer questions. And we're going to switch things up a little bit next week. Our next episode is going to be next Tuesday, so we're not going to have a Monday show. We're going to do the Power Ranking show on Tuesday where we live draft the Power Rankings 32-1. Thank you all for listening and watching. If you are here for the first time, make sure to subscribe. Subscribe to all the channels, Tanner, Pro Football Demon, and 30 Minutes of Football. Thanks again, guys. Enjoy the games this week. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. We'll see you next week. That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.